After weeks of silence and cold shoulders, I saw her name flash on my phone screen. My fingers froze. It had been so long since I heard her voice. I almost didn't answer, afraid of what she might say, but curiosity got the better of me. When I picked up, her tone was unusually soft. "Beta," she said gently, "please come to our old family house. I've been thinking a lot. I miss you. Let's talk like mother and daughter." I stayed quiet for a moment, unsure how to respond. This was the same woman who never accepted me, who found ways to insult me even when I tried my best. Why the sudden change of heart? Still, something in me wanted to believe her. Maybe she was finally seeing me differently. Maybe she had realized her mistakes. Or maybe I was just too tired of the distance and the pain. My heart had always craved her approval. I had tried so hard in the beginning. Buying her gifts, cooking her favorite meals, staying silent when she blamed me for things I never did. But nothing worked. She always looked at me like I was never enough. And yet here she was now, calling me to talk like mother and daughter. I told her I would come. My voice even cracked a little, not from fear but from hope. He sounded pleased. "Come today if you can," she said. "I've made your favorite sweet dish. Wear something nice." That last part made me smile a little. She used to mock my clothes. Was she actually trying now? I stood in front of my wardrobe for 10 minutes, unsure what to wear. I picked a simple, elegant outfit, something she couldn't criticize easily. On the way there, my mind was racing with thoughts. What if she truly wanted to apologize? What if we could finally have peace in the family? I imagined us sitting together, sipping tea, laughing over old memories like real family. For the first time in a long while, I felt light. But something also tugged at the back of my mind. A little voice warning me not to get too excited. I brushed it off. I wanted to believe this was a new beginning. I had no idea what was actually waiting for me behind those old rusted gates. As soon as I stepped out of the car, I felt something strange in the air. The mansion stood tall and silent, surrounded by old trees that swayed slowly in the wind. The place hadn't changed much. It still looked like something out of an old story, grand but cold. The iron gate creaked open as I pushed it gently. I took a deep breath, straightened my clothes and stepped in. Just a few steps in, I saw someone rushing toward me. It was Ruxana, one of the older maids who had worked in the house for years. Her face looked pale, her eyes darting around nervously. She grabbed my wrist and leaned in close. "Madam," she whispered, her voice trembling, "please go back. Leave right now before it's too late." I looked at her, confused. "What are you saying?" "She's planned something terrible," she whispered again, looking over her shoulder as if someone might hear. "She's called a man here, someone you don't know. She wants to trap you with him, and then your husband is coming too. She wants him to walk in at the wrong moment, so he sees you together. She wants to ruin your name, your marriage, everything." For a second I couldn't breathe. My mind froze. The words hit me like a slap. I looked into Ruxana's eyes, hoping this was a misunderstanding, a joke maybe, but there was nothing funny about her fear. My heart began to pound so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands started shaking. I stepped back instinctively, glancing at the house. The front door was wide open, and inside I could see the dim light from the hallway. Everything felt too quiet, too perfect. There was no sign of my mother-in-law, but I suddenly felt like eyes were watching me from somewhere. "Are you sure?" I asked Ruxana in a whisper, even though my gut already believed her. She nodded quickly. I heard her talking on the phone. Laughing. She said, "Let's see how loyal she really is. She planned this all morning. Please, madam, don't go inside." For a few seconds I stood frozen, unable to think straight. The woman who had just called me Beta, over the phone, had invited me here not for peace, but for humiliation. My stomach turned with nausea and disbelief. How could someone hate me this much? But then, instead of running, something inside me shifted. I wiped the sweat from my forehead, took a deep breath and said quietly, "Thank you, Ruxana. Now let's see who gets trapped today." And I walked straight toward the house, no longer as a guest, but as someone ready for war. I stepped into the house slowly, trying to keep my breath steady. Every sound echoed in the empty halls. The soft click of my heels on the marble floor, the faint creak of a fan above. The air smelled of perfume and something sweet. Maybe the dessert she claimed she made for me. But none of it felt welcoming. Felt like a stage. In the living room, I noticed the little details that made my heart race faster. 2 wine glasses sat neatly on the table with a bottle already opened beside them. A plate of sliced fruits rested between them, and soft instrumental music floated in the background. It was too perfectly arranged, too calm for a casual visit. I looked around carefully. No sign of my mother-in-law yet. I walked in further, forcing my expression to remain normal. I didn't want anyone to suspect I knew anything. I sat down on the edge of the sofa, placing my purse next to me, but I didn't touch the wine or the fruit. I kept glancing at the door, unsure of who might walk in next. Just then I heard footsteps. Calm and confident. And then he appeared. A man I had never seen before walked into the room, wearing a crisp shirt, hair neatly styled, holding his phone loosely in his hand. He looked right at me and smiled, no, smirked. The kind of look that made my skin crawl. "So," he said casually, "you're even prettier than she described." I stared at him, confused and cautious. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice low but firm. He chuckled a little, stepping closer. "She told me you were lonely, tired of being ignored by your husband. That you needed company." I thought it was weird at first, but I mean, look at this setup. He motioned to the wine, the music, and then finally at me. "She said you'd be open to fun." The words made me sick. I stood up immediately, taking a step back. Now it was all clear. She had invited me here to trap me, with this man. She wanted her son to walk in and find me like this. This wasn't just about hating me. This was about destroying me completely. My hands curled into fists. I didn't want to show fear. "You need to leave," I said firmly. But he just shrugged. "You sure?" "Because she said." "I don't care what she said." I snapped, my voice louder now. I turned away from him quickly, pretending to fix my scarf just so he wouldn't see how shaken I really was. I needed to think fast. If this was her plan and my husband was already on his way, I had very little time to turn this around. I glanced at my purse where my phone was hidden inside. A new plan started forming in my mind, because if she wanted a show, I was about to give her one she'd never forget. I took a deep breath and forced myself to sit back down. My heart was pounding so hard I thought the man might hear it. But I smiled anyway. A soft fake smile. The kind I'd learned from watching people who lie with ease. If I showed any panic now, the whole thing could fall apart. I picked up the wine glass slowly, just to buy time, and swirled it gently without drinking. Then I looked at him and said, "So, she told you I was lonely?" He chuckled, nodding like he thought we were about to have a pleasant conversation. "Yeah," he said. "She said you're just stuck in a cold marriage. And I'm not here to judge, you know." I laughed a little, playing along. "Wow, she really said that. That's a bit too honest, don't you think?" I kept my tone light, but inside I was burning. Burning with anger and with something more powerful. Focus. While he spoke, I reached for my phone in my purse under the table. With a few swipes, I turned on the voice recorder and video camera and set the phone face down, still recording. I made sure it had a clear view of him, the wine glasses, the room setup. I kept him talking, asking questions that sounded casual but made him repeat things. I even asked, "So she set this up completely?" And he replied, "Everything. She said you wouldn't mind." That was all I needed. Excusing myself with a polite smile, I said I had to fix my makeup. I walked to the hallway calmly, then slipped into one of the side rooms and locked the door from inside. My hands were trembling slightly, but I moved fast. I texted my cousin, who worked with a legal team and had police contacts. I wrote, "Come now to Mom's old house. Bring police quietly. It's urgent." Then I opened my husband's chat, took a shaky breath and typed, "Come to Mom's old house right now. It's urgent. Please don't ask, just come." I stared at both messages for a second before hitting send. Then I looked in the mirror and whispered to myself, "You've got this." I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to cry. Not this time. If my mother-in-law wanted a scene, she was going to get one, but I was going to direct it. I stepped out of the room and walked back to the living area like nothing had happened. He was still sitting there, checking something on his phone. I sat down across from him and smiled again, like we were just having a casual afternoon. "You know," I said, "it's funny how people assume I'm weak." He looked up, confused. I leaned forward a bit and said softly, "But weakness is often just patience waiting to become power." He smiled awkwardly, unsure of what I meant. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. I already knew the game had shifted. Now it was only a matter of minutes before the truth would walk through the door, and this time I wouldn't be the one exposed. I heard the front door open and my breath caught in my throat. Footsteps, quick and angry, echoed down the hallway. My husband had arrived. I glanced at the man sitting across from me. He looked a little confused now, sensing that something wasn't right. But I didn't say a word. I sat calmly, my hands resting on my lap, my phone still recording everything. Then, just like I had expected, my husband entered the room. His eyes landed on the strange man first, and his entire face twisted with rage. "Who the hell is this?" he shouted, his voice shaking the walls. Before I could answer, my mother-in-law made her grand appearance. She came hurrying down the stairs in her usual dramatic way, holding her chest like she was heartbroken. "Oh my God," she cried. "What is this shameful act? In my house. Have you no shame?" Her voice was loud, filled with fake tears. "I invited her here like a daughter and she does this?" My husband looked at me now, his jaw clenched tight. "What's going on here? Who is this man? What are you doing?" I stood up slowly, calm but firm. My heart was thudding, but I held myself steady. "Before you accuse me," I said clearly, "let's all hear the truth first." I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone and turned off the recording. Then with a deep breath I played it aloud for everyone to hear. The room went silent except for the voice coming from the phone. My mother-in-law's voice. "Flirt with her. Touch her hand. My son will walk in right after." My husband froze. The color drained from his face. The man sitting in the room looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Wait, you recorded that?" he asked, now panicked. "You said this was just a joke." I turned to him. "You helped her try to ruin my life. Do you think I'd come here without protecting myself?" My mother-in-law took a step back, stumbling on the stairs. "That's fake," she screamed. "You edited that. You're lying." But my husband didn't look at me, he looked straight at his mother. "Is it true?" he asked her quietly. "Tell me this isn't your voice." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time she looked truly afraid. I played another part of the recording, this time her laughing voice saying, "He'll believe what he sees. He's my son. I've raised him to think I'm always right." My husband turned away and ran both hands through his hair, pacing like his world was spinning. "I can't believe this," he muttered. "You planned all this. Just to trap her." The silence in the room was loud now. No one spoke. My mother-in-law's acting had finally cracked. I looked at her straight in the eyes. "You used love as a weapon. You pretended to care, but you only ever wanted to destroy me. I kept quiet for too long. But not anymore." My husband sat down, stunned. His hands were shaking. I thought she called you here for peace." "She did," I said softly. "But her idea of peace was watching me suffer." And just as the air grew still again, the doorbell rang. My cousin had arrived, with 2 police officers standing behind him. The man on the couch stood up in panic, but it was too late. I smiled gently and said, "Let's finish this properly, shall we?" My husband sat there frozen, like his body was present but his mind had left the room. His eyes were stuck on the doorway where the police officers now stood, taking slow steps inside. One of them approached the man on the couch and asked him his name. The man stammered, looking at my husband, then at my mother-in-law, but no one came to his rescue. The officer asked again, this time firmer, and the man finally mumbled his name, followed by a nervous, "I didn't mean anything bad, I was just asked to be here." "Asked by whom?" the officer questioned. He pointed slowly toward my mother-in-law. She stepped forward, her hands up like she was the victim. Wait. This is all a misunderstanding," she cried. "This was just a test. I was testing her loyalty to my son. That's all. I didn't mean for anything bad to happen." The officer gave her a blank stare. "You invited a man into the house, instructed him to act inappropriately with your daughter-in-law, and then planned for your son to walk in to catch them? That's not a test, ma'am. That's malicious entrapment." No, please," she shouted. "She's turning everyone against me. I'm his mother." "She has your voice recorded." My cousin stepped forward calmly, handing a file to one of the officers. Full audio of her giving instructions to the man with timestamps and location data. She also recorded the man confessing he was told to flirt with her. "We have it all saved on both cloud and physical drives." The officer nodded and motioned to his partner. "Take him," he said, pointing at the man. "And take her statement down," he added, looking at my mother-in-law. The man didn't argue as he was escorted out, handcuffed. My mother-in-law dropped to her knees, clutching my husband's hand like a lifeline. Beta, please. You know I love you. I did this for you, to protect you. She could have ruined you. But my husband didn't respond. He just looked at me, his expression filled with something I hadn't seen before. Guilt, fear, and something almost like shame. He finally saw it, the web she had spun and how he'd blindly walked through it, dragging me with him every time. You called her here, he said to his mother, barely above a whisper. You set all this up. She nodded desperately. To prove she's not right for you. And what did you prove? He asked, standing up slowly. That she's smarter than you? Stronger than you? More loyal than anyone else I've ever known. She started sobbing louder now, almost wailing. Please. Don't say that. I'm your mother. But he backed away. For the first time in years he didn't take her side. He turned to me, his voice trembling. I don't know how to fix this, he said. I didn't know she was capable of this. I swear I didn't know. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to forgive, not yet. But I also didn't want revenge anymore. Because the real punishment was already happening. His mother had ruined her image in front of her son. Her plan had failed and the truth had spilled out in front of everyone. She wasn't the powerful queen of the family anymore. She was just a bitter woman exposed by her own cruelty. And that was enough for now. Exactly 1 month after that unforgettable day, everything began to change. But this time in my favor. It started with a quiet message from my father-in-law. He'd been living abroad for years, tired of all the family drama. But after hearing everything that had happened, he requested a video call with me. On that call, his face looked older, worn out, but his voice was steady. He said, I always thought you were too quiet, but you proved to be the only one with a spine and a heart. I've decided to transfer the family estate to your name. You've earned it more than anyone else. I was speechless. The mansion that once echoed with my mother-in-law's commands was now mine. The legal documents were signed and processed in days. Suddenly, I wasn't just the daughter-in-law anymore. I was the official owner of the property. Servants who once avoided eye contact now greeted me with respect. The same halls where I once walked with uncertainty, I now crossed with quiet confidence. My husband changed too. Slowly but noticeably. He started listening when I spoke. He began helping around the house. He no longer asked questions like, what did my mom say? Instead he asked, how do you feel about this? The guilt he carried didn't vanish overnight, but it humbled him. He knew he had failed me in the past, and though he couldn't erase that, he was trying to become the kind of man I once hoped he'd be. As for my mother-in-law, she was nowhere to be seen. After the police case and the humiliation that followed, she was quietly removed from the estate. My father-in-law had instructed that she would no longer have any authority or access to the property. She had to move into a small apartment, far from the house she once ruled with pride. People in the neighborhood talked. Servants whispered about how the mighty had fallen. But I didn't feel joy watching her fall. I just felt peace. Because the woman who once plotted to destroy my dignity had been exposed by her own actions. And not in front of strangers but in front of her own son, the very person she tried to manipulate. She had planned my downfall, dressed it in wine glasses and fake warmth. But in the end, her evil plan became the reason for her own ruin. Me. I didn't need revenge. I just needed truth. And the truth, when spoken at the right time, became the most powerful answer I ever gave.